Hello everyone! Welcome back to Let's Play Great Ace Attorney. In our last episode, we started our third episode, made it to Great Britain, and we've got a case we have no idea what the hell happened. With a very fishy-seeming defendant. And this guy, who was apparently cursed. Let's get started, shall we? As your lordship is aware, this is a case of overwhelming simplicity. We must be the only ones in here who aren't aware. The incident took place in the late evening, 3 days past. The hour was some minutes after 10. The victim was a maker of building bricks, known in the community as Thrice-Fired Mason. Sorry, thrice? He was a very accomplished craftsman. Bricks he fired were said to be almost indestructible. Ouch! Yow! The victim's corpse was discovered in the Omnibus in service in the streets of London at the time. A dagger that had been thrust into the victim's abdomen is believed to be the ultimate cause of death. Here's the autopsy report for the investigating medical officer of Scotland Yard. Thank you, counsel. I shall accept that and the photograph as evidence. Autopsy report. And the photograph. And one further item of evidence. The prosecution wishes to submit these as well. And these are... Good lord! Is that blood, counsel? Yes, my lord. Seized by a policeman who arrived at the scene. These gore-soaked gloves were taken from the hands of the accused when he was arrested. What? Mr. McGilden's gloves had blood on them? Yes, I will accept these as evidence as well. The defendant's leather gloves have been entered into the court record. How'd I get into this? I said earlier, life hates you. I'm backed into a corner before I've even started. Continuing. According to the driver of the omnibus, there were only 2 passengers traveling inside his vehicle at the time. Only 2? Obviously, one of those passengers was the deceased brickmaker, Mr. Mason. The other was the accused, Magnus McGilden. Well, rather damning circumstances, to say the least. Defendant, what say you? Well, of course I have no recollection of such a thing. Mr. McGilden! To be sure, I rode the omnibus that evening. But whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. Are you claiming to have been asleep? 'Tis the motion of the carriage, my lord. Lifted, so it is. And when I open my eyes again, 'twas a desperate sight before me. The body of a man I've never laid eyes on before me in my life. Now I ask you, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fella bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about my gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. So the blood got under the gloves then, after the man had been killed. Unfortunately, that statement of the driver's is only the beginning. What? That's not all of it? There were multiple witnesses to the precise moment at which the brickmaker was fatally stabbed. Well, I guess we're going back to Japan after. Order! 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 When the killing took place, only the victim and the accused were inside the carriage, and there were witnesses to the crime. This is not just a case of compelling evidence. It's the nail in the coffin for the accused. Ooh. Thank you, counsel. The circumstances of the crime have been made quite clear. I think we will hear testimony from these witnesses first of all. Your wish is my command. Bailiff! Bring the witnesses in at once. Witnesses, your names and occupations. My name is, well, everyone calls me Beppo. I drive an omnibus in the East End. Bruce Fairplay. I'm a banker in the city. My name's First. Lady First. I make hats for gents. And yet your name stands to the contrary. Let's begin by confirming the facts. 3 days ago, at a short time after 10 o'clock in the evening, all of you present in the stand were in an omnibus and witness to the aforementioned incident. Is that correct? Yes, sir. Quite right. Yes, sir. That's right, sir. Very well then, let's proceed to your formal testimonies, please. Each of you will tell the court precisely what you saw. Witness testimony. It was the last bus of the evening. So had a few customers. I remember it well. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. Then out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. That's right. He stabbed him. I screamed, I did. Couldn't help it. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus. And then I saw it too. Unambiguous testimony, I must say. Exactly, my lord. These men witnessed the incident in the omnibus with their own eyes. I'd like to ask a question, if I may. Yes, counsel. Well, this testimony makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Why not? Well, the incident took place inside a moving carriage, didn't it? As has been clearly stated from the outside, yes. Well, in that case, how could those two witnesses possibly have seen what happened? There's no way they could have seen the inside of a moving carriage. How quaint. I'd read that civilization in the Eastern Island nations was a good century behind our own. But you're here in London yourself, and you're really so ignorant about omnibuses? Huh? Tell me, my Nipponese friend, have you even traveled in an omnibus? Well, no. We only arrived in London this morning. No matter. I've arranged for us all to see for ourselves. The actual scene of crime, that is. What do you mean? The actual scene? How? A carriage is designed to be moved, after all. Presumably you understand that much. Yes. The omnibus in which this bloody crime took place is here today, in this very building. Here? What? The entire carriage? Bailiff! Bring forth the stricken omnibus! Wow, he wasn't kidding. So that's an omnibus. The omnibus. I can't believe they could bring something so enormous in here. Great Britain's courtrooms are amazing. As you can see, the omnibus is pulled by 2 horses and can carry up to 8 passengers. 4 passengers seated inside the enclosed cabin, and another 4 on the rooftop deck above. Every Londoner knows that the best views of the city's architecture and sights ought to be had from the top of the omnibus. Hang on one moment. Alright, sorry about that. And I should point out to our foreign guests that there is a skylight in the roof allowing a view of the interior from the seats above. The skylight? Oh! The penny drops at last, I see. These 2 gentlemen were occupying the rooftop seats on this omnibus when the murder took place. That is how they came to witness the grim incident. Through the skylight. That makes perfect sense now. Well, counsel, this is a first. In all my years behind the bench, I've never experienced the crime scene itself being brought into the courtroom. Oh, don't mind the toupee. There are a number of important clues remaining inside the carriage, my lord. I would like to submit the omnibus itself as evidence. That is the prosecution's wish. Oh, there we go. Very well, I see no reason why not. The omnibus is hereby formally accepted as evidence. The omnibus has been entered into the court record. Wow. Biggest piece of evidence ever? I can't believe it. The entire crime scene entered as evidence? Yeah, Great Britain's simply extraordinary. I could help myself a lot by giving that omnibus a thorough examination, seeing as it's here. Let us continue with proceedings then. Your cross-examination, counsel. Pray don't expect this Nipponese stray to understand the intricacies of a British court's cross-examination rights. You are being quite rude. Alright, first cross-examination in a British court. Ow. Focus, Ryunosuke. Focus. Alrighty. Yeah. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. And out of the blue, the accused just reached over and plunged a knife right into his guts. Hold it! You actually saw the exact moment it happened. Didn't I already testify to that? Oh, fair dinkum, hard-working Citibank is not considered trustworthy these days. Oh, no. I didn't mean that. This is no good. I've really got his back up. Perhaps you could just tell us what you saw in a little more detail, if that's... My lord! Juror number 3, what's the meaning of this? My mind is made up, my lord. Completely and utterly made up. Made up about what? I don't like the stinking rich. Never have. They're always up to something or other that they shouldn't be. Every one of them. And that little leprechaun of a man is no exception. Well, you can't fool me. That's not good. There's no point wasting time listening to any more of this. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. That is precisely what I was about to say. As the foreman of the jury, it is my duty to set a good example to my fellow jurors. That's not good either. What the? What is happening here? Let me see. Yes, it seems that's how the members of the jury give their verdicts. With fire? Burninating the countryside? Apparently, yes. White for innocent, black for guilty. As the 6 members of the jury make up their minds about the case, one by one they each cast a ball of fire into the great scales of justice. As we saw a moment ago. So if those enormous scales fall completely to the black side, does that mean... Let's do our best to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I'm even more worried than I was before. Very well. The court acknowledges the change in the jury's stance. Counsel for the defense, please continue with your cross-examination. This is a nightmare. Give it a few games. You'll understand what a nightmare really is. That's right. He stabbed him. I screamed out, dude. I couldn't help it. He stabbed him, you say. And you were sitting up on the roof deck, were you? Yes, that's right. I was up on the roof seats. I remember seeing a little gent sit next to the fellow that we just stabbed. I've been thinking about a new hat design, you see, so I was just gazing absent-mindedly around. But then I happened to look down through the skylight. It was sticking right out from his belly. That huge, great knife. A grim sight indeed. That didn't help me at all. The jury look like they're even more convinced my client did it than they were before. That appears to have made everyone even more dubious that Mr. McGilded is telling the truth. If only we had some evidence to counter their suspicions. Mr. First! Oh, yes, sir. Is this the knife you saw? Oh, good grief. Yes, that's it. The very one, sir. Is that? Yes, counsel. This is the blade that was driven into the victim's belly like a stake through the heart. That is a blade of considerable size, counsel. I'm not gonna touch that one. It is, and furthermore, the scabbard is emblazoned prominently with a certain initial. The letter M, which seems oddly familiar. Please no. M, for Magnus perhaps? Or McGilded possibly. Take your pick. It seems this particular big name in London made a magnificent mistake. But there's M's everywhere. Yes, like in Mason. Objection. This blade is far too extravagant for a poor brickmaker to have owned. No, this weapon of murder almost certainly belongs to the accused. Not conclusive, but certainly compelling, counsel. The murder weapon has been entered into the court record. My lord, if you'll forgive the interruption. Juror number 2. Go on. Mr. McGilded is a pillar of society and a gentleman's word should be sacrosanct. Wow, there's one of those $10 words you don't hear every day. However, those of us in service know we must accept hard truths. Wait, what are you about to do? Dispose of the rubbish? Oh boy. No! I don't wish to cause offense, but I do like to eradicate all traces of filth and grime. I've painstakingly typed every word out of here today, and cross-examined all the facts. As such, I am now in a position to draw the only logical conclusion. Guilty. Oh, shit. Not again. That's 4 out of 6 jury members have proposed a guilty verdict. There are only 2 left. We've had it. Every time I press these witnesses for more information, I make the situation worse. Nevertheless, what we need more than anything at the moment is more information. He's still very much in the dark. I suppose we'll just have to keep pressing the witness, knowing that more sparks may well fly. We mustn't give up hope that we'll uncover something that will give us a way to fight back. But, alright, I'll keep trying. I can't give up. Alright, number 5. As soon as I heard the scream, I stopped my bus and I saw it too. Geez, I can't focus on this guy's accent. Excuse me. Excuse me, sorry. Geez, my allergies are kicking up. Something bad. I think this guy's supposed to be Italian, but... Okay, I just have to do a really bad Chico Marx impersonation. As I heard the scream, I stopped my bus. And then I saw it too. My apologies to my Italian friends everywhere. Press. That's not good. What exactly did you see? Oh, well, sir, that would be the passenger, sir. Yes, collapsed on the floor. Collapsed onto the floor, he was. And by the passenger, obviously, you're referring to the victim, Mr. Mason, the brickmaker. And the other passenger that had the knife in his hand. Like this! And by the other passenger, obviously, you're referring to the accused, Mr. Magnus McGilded. And then he about plunged it down like this, stabbing the other passenger in the belly. What? Claim the right. Huh. Order! Order! It's hard to believe one of London's greatest philanthropists. But this is damning indeed. The law knows no philanthropists, my lord. Only the innocent and the guilty. Good deeds mean nothing when overshadowed by evil. The truth is, everything. I couldn't agree more, sir. The truth. Alright, so when it happens, the only 2 people in the enclosed cabin were the victim and the defendant. And, so help me, 3 whole people witnessed the man I'm trying to defend do the deed. I don't like to be pessimistic, but we do seem to be in a rather difficult situation here. That's understatement of the year right now. What am I supposed to think here? Is Mr. McGilded really innocent? Or could it be... Before we jump to conclusions, our first task should be to gather information. We need to understand the case much better than we do at the moment. You're absolutely right. Let's listen to those witness statements again, a little more carefully this time. The victim and the man accused of killing him were sat next to each other inside the bus. And out of the blue, the accused plunged a knife right into his guts. Alright. Do I need to press everything? Yes, sir. That's right, sir. Yes. It was so cold it was. It's a freezing, in fact. And you had 4 passengers on board at the time. Is that correct? Yes, sir, that's right, sir. Not all are traveling in the same parts of the bus, sir. Of course, no. No. And there were no other passengers when the incident took place. No one alighted, for example. You're quite right with that, sir. No other passengers like that. No, none. So nobody fled the scene of the crime. I have to say, the bus insists on it running, he does. Every evening. The last bus of the day. But I do wonder sometimes if it's altogether worthwhile. Yes, sorry to say. What do you mean by that? Well, what with it being so cold and everything, and only making 20 pence on the run, you see. I spend that much at the pub on the way home just trying to warm up again. I can't believe it, sir. Can't believe it. A murder on my own bus. It's too awful to think about. I haven't been able to shake this cold since it happened. My lord, I wish to speak. Yes, juror number 5. Do I take it that you two... As a master of the London Guild of Coachmen, the idea of a murder being committed in one of the city's carriages is utterly abhorrent to me. It wouldn't be right to make a decision before hearing all the facts, though, I said to myself. But I've heard enough now. Horse it bolted, as they say. No, please just keep an open mind a little. Get up now, Silver Blaze. The finish is in sight. That was a long-standing member of the guild, and I trust what the man says. Oh, thank you, sir. You're too kind, sir. This is too unkind, sir. With no means, 5 jurors agree to condemn this man. Madam Juror number 6. Yes, dearie? What can I do for you? You've heard the testimonies of the witnesses in the stand. Oh yes, I certainly have. Still got my hearing, you know. Then pray tell, why are you yet to pronounce your leaning? Well, dearie, the thing is, I'm a creature of habit, me. I always go to the park at around this time of day, and sit on a nice bench and get on with me knitting. There's a lovely little park just near where I live. McGilded Park it's called. These gentlemen donated it to the city, you know, to put a smile on Londoners' faces, he said. I can't imagine such a fine young gentleman would have it in him to take another man's life. He's always doing wonderful things for the city. That's right, man like that wouldn't stab someone, surely. Mother, may we go to the Millgilded Public Library and borrow some more books? How many Londoners live with their heads in the clouds? You people not know. What kind of a man Magnus McGilded really is? What kind of a man is he? The philanthropist Magnus McGilded has enough wealth to purchase the entire city he claims to value so highly. But where did all that wealth come from? Your client's a Shylock, sir, and one of the very darkest of souls. A Shylock. So he's a loan shark. What? Stolen the cruise? McGilded lends money at extortionate rates of interest, so his victims have no hope of repaying it. Oh, so he's like Furio Tigre then. When they default, he takes possession of everything they own. He's a vulture that preys on the weak. I've never heard of any mention of that before. Your faculties haven't deserted you, I'm sure, ma'am. So, has this not crossed your mind? Would a man wealthy enough to buy London in its entirety not have a carriage of his own? Oh, we never actually thought of that. What possible reason could this man have had to make use of a public omnibus service? You're not saying that. The victim, a poor brickmaker, had next to nothing to his name, save considerable financial liability. It will come as no surprise that his creditor was the accursed Magnus McGilded. But let it also be known, the very day Mr. Mason was killed was the final repayment debt for his debts. Good gracious! The brickmaker was destitute. He'd lost his house. He'd not a shilling to which to repay his debts. And in the end, this pitiful soul had the very last thing he'd owned taken from him. His life. By the merciless philanthropist pretender, Magnus McGilded. I don't believe it. If I might add something briefly, Miss Suzata, you claim that the victim had lent money to Mr. McGilded, but where's the evidence to support your claim? Oh, I give up. Really? What is a man? Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice in the court of law. For what is a man but a miserable pile of secrets? There, I said it. Aha! There it is! Lord Van Zeek's hallowed chalice! Get the cameras out, people. How can this be considered acceptable? But I find myself in unexpectedly good humor. I'd heard ladies from the Far East could show great courage, but I didn't expect to experience it myself. As judicial assistant to the defense, I'm simply doing my job. What a pity that your display of courage is in vain. This is the debtor's ledger, which details all monies loaned by the accused. You will find the victim's name clearly recorded inside. Oh. Allow me to present this ledger as evidence. And pray forgive the discourtesy of raising my chalice in a toast to the enigmatic East at the same time. A marvelous toast, counsel. I will gladly accept this new evidence. The debtor's ledger has been entered into the court record, and I think our case has been sunk. Ah, yes, 20 guineas. The victim owed a considerable sum. Yeesh. And the accused made certain he had ample recompense. Well, it would seem I've had the wool pulled over me eyes. Regrettably, madam, that is the modus operandi of the accursed. And it's such a pretty little park, too. What a scoundrel! Still, maybe it's all for the best. Ah, wait a minute! Let's think about this a little more before. I don't stand for nonsense. Oh, crap. That's all of them. That was it. Last juror's decision. It's a little book of everything, blah 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 blah. According to this Encyclopedia of British Law, when all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, court proceedings are suspended, and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict and its sentence. That's what it says here. The final verdict. It's over then. Oh. There's a footnote, though. A footnote. However, the defense... All 6 members of the jury are now in agreement in the case. Allow me to convey my respect for your swift and righteous decision. According to the laws of this country, I will now conclude the trial by delivering my final verdict. I trust there are no objections. Miss Susato, just tell me one thing. Yes? You were in the middle of saying something before. Footnote in your Encyclopedia of British Law. However, the defense... What did it say next? Yes, of course. One moment. When all members of the jury have concluded that the defendant is guilty, the court proceedings are suspended and the presiding judge will deliver the final verdict at the sentence. Then the footnote says, however, the defense has the right to demand a summation examination of the jurors at this point. This is new. A summation examination?
Objection!
Objection! A summation examination. From which century has that tome you have there been resurrected? Judging from the binding, I would say that book is at least 50 years old. Any modern text on British law wouldn't even give such an antiquated procedure a mention. It's a relic, long forgotten, and certainly has no longer practiced. So you're out of luck. Oh. What even is it, Miss Susato? The so-called summation examination. Oh, one moment. I'll read about it. You would demand the right to a procedure before you even understand what it entails. Pfft, typical Nipponese. You're being very rude. I know this was the times where you could be rude to Nipponese, or Japanese, but that doesn't make it any right. Alright, Mr. Naruhodo, I think I understand. It seems that under this procedure, we would be able to appeal to the members of the jury. To do what exactly? Appeal to them to change their leading and reverse their decisions. And it says here that, if successful, the proceedings of the trial must be resumed. Make them reverse their decisions. Yes, in times gone by, barristers would use summation examination to attempt to influence the jury's decision. That procedure has become something of a formality, with no practical benefit, really. So it rather fell out of use. I wonder why. Because it was devoid of purpose. Changing just one member of the jury's mind would be hard enough, let alone several. No self-respecting defense barrister would even assert his right to try in this day and age. I'm not a self-respecting defense barrister. I'm gonna give it a try. I don't see any mention of the procedure actually being formally revoked. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that although it may be antiquated and largely forgotten, it isn't yet extinct. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? A summation examination, a last possible option. Do we assert our right to carry it out or admit defeat? The defense wishes to assert its right to a summation examination, my lord.
Objection!
London is the capital city of the most powerful nation on earth. We have a duty to the world to exemplify the very highest standards of judicial procedure. Summation examinations are an embarrassment that should remain buried.
Objection!
But it's alright. It's alright. I believe it could prove vital in this trial. The defense's petition is perfectly valid. The court will proceed with the summation examination. This is madness. If this were another place in the world, I would continue that meme, but I'm not. Foreman, are you and the remainder of the jury ready? Hey! Well, I'm not, there was a mention of this in the letter I received, you see, so. All members of the jury will be asked to explain on what grounds they have reached their decision. On what grounds? You must all justify your decisions and explain why you believe the defendant to be guilty. Well, my lord, you're rather putting us on the spot. This is most irregular. No mention was made of this before. I really held with all this just fine luck. That seems to have thrown the jurors off. It seems none of them have experienced this before. Alright then, the summation exam. A defense procedure no practicing lawyer has attempted for years, is it? Well, just maybe. It might be the opportunity we've been looking for, to turn this trial around. And we are going to start that next time. See you guys then.